Hi, my name is Billie. I am 37 years old. I live in Iowa and I suffer from OCD, anxiety, and agoraphobia. The OCD actually is probably my main diagnosis. It has caused the agoraphobia. I recently started video therapy with a counselor to do ERP, which is exposure response prevention for my OCD. And I thought that I would do a video series based upon my experiences, kind of how that goes. I thought I would do an introduction first, and I've actually been thinking about it for a while. I thought, maybe I would do my makeup and my hair and put on something nice and clean the house, but to be honest, I never do any of that, so it seems a little bit silly to do it for this video. I wanted to start with where my anxiety actually started, and it started when I was 17, so I've been dealing with it for about 20 years now. Um, I had a lot of things happen to me in rapid succession. Um, the summer when I was 17, I actually, my grandfather passed away, and on the way to school, the day that we were supposed to leave to go to the funeral, I actually got in a car accident that day. So then I had to start doing physical therapy. Then later that year on Thanksgiving, well, actually the night before Thanksgiving, I got engaged to my then boyfriend. Um, we aren't together now. Um, the next morning, my mom called me and let me know that the apartment we lived in, I had babysat the night before for my cousin, and she called to let me know that it had actually burned down. My little brother had lit a fire, and everything was gone. And then I went over there to kind of see the damage, and thankfully everybody was okay. I went over there and I called my dad, who was separated from my mom and lived somewhere else, to let him know that we had had a fire, and he let me know that my great grandmother had passed away. So that year was extremely, extremely tough for me. I started having a lot of trouble with anxiety. I would get panic attacks. I, would think the worst. I would have trouble breathing. My vision would blur. My hands would get clammy. My heart would pound out of my chest, or it would feel like I could barely feel it. And fight or flight really kicked in. And of course, it's always flight. Whenever that happened, I would obviously just want to leave wherever I was and find a safe place. At that time, it was with my mom, so I was living with my fiance at the time, and I would often, or no, I was living with my cousin at that time. I don't know, a couple of times. I moved a lot. That happened, but I would want to be with my mom. I ended up in the emergency room a couple of times trying to see what was wrong with me. Um, and they could never find anything wrong other than anxiety. So I went to the local mental health center and actually saw a doctor, and I started talk therapy, which at the time helped kind of. I could go and talk and explain what I was going through, and um, you know, just talk therapy for me never really worked. It was a place where I could go and kind of unleash all of the things that I wanted to say, but it wasn't exactly for me. But I've seen doctors off and on since then. My OCD diagnosis was at age 21. It seemed to come completely out of nowhere. I never really, that I can remember, I never really displayed any obsessive compulsive traits when I was younger. Um, it literally came out of nowhere. I was afraid of being drugged, terrified of it, horrified of it, didn't want to be anywhere near somebody who looked like they might do drugs or looked like they might have drugs on them or they might have touched drugs. Um, I couldn't eat or drink anything that other people had opened or I would or other people had made. Um, And at that time, a lot of my coping mechanisms was to wash my hands. I would wash my hands for hours on end. And that's when other OCD issues started appearing as well. I would retrace my steps or redo whatever I was doing until it felt right. And that meant washing my hands for an hour or staring at a light switch, to make sure that it's on, or holding it on, or holding it off, or holding water off, or holding door locks off, or holding the oven knobs off. Even though my brain could, my eyes could literally see that they were off, or uh, my OCD wasn't recognizing it. So I did start low doses of medication at that time. I never got to the OCD therapeutic doses because I'm extremely pill phobic, medicine phobic altogether. Um, but my OCD has gotten pretty bad over the years. I've dealt with agoraphobia a couple of times because my OCD rituals get so bad when I'm out at the store retracing my steps or picking up and putting things back or touching things or washing my hands that I just started avoiding everywhere I wanted to go, or because it was easier. It was just a hassle to go there and do the rituals. And so um, a couple of times I've dealt with this, and the first time was about a year. After that, it was maybe 4 months. This time is by far the longest time. I've been 99.9% homebound for about 4.5 years. Um, this past Sunday, I actually made it to my son's graduation party. It was about a mile away. That was the furthest I've been from my home in almost 2 years. 2 years today is when my sister got married, and I was a mile away from home for that. Other than that, my home, my yard, very safe. I can walk about a block down. After that, I start getting anxious. I can ride around in a car a couple of blocks. After that, I start getting anxious. So um, OCD has really, really trapped me, and I'm tired of it. It rules my life. It rules everything that I do, from brushing my hair to washing my hands to putting on lotion to eating food to drinking food to talking on the phone. Literally affects everything. Um, I'm lucky in that I recently found a counselor who lives in my town who's willing to do video sessions so that I can start facing my OCD. I think once I can start getting a grasp on that, a lot of the agoraphobia and anxiety issues will be addressed, because the OCD is kind of the ringleader for everything. And it was kind of a whim where I checked the International OCD Foundation's website to see if anybody knew was in my area, because for the longest time there was nobody around here that had anything to do with OCD, and definitely didn't know ERP. So my cat's jumping up there. Um, it's very important to me that she understands ERP and OCD in itself. So I'm pretty excited, excuse me, to start this road of recovery. I've had 3 sessions so far. I have one more session this Friday, and I plan on keeping them up about once a week. And I'm terrified because everything is going to get very scary, um, very uncomfortable. I'll be terrified at the things that I have to do and say and think on purpose, all these things that I've been avoiding for over, 15 years. But I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful to get a grasp on my life again. And I think that by sharing my experiences, maybe somebody else out there, excuse me, dry throat, will be able to get some help, or maybe something. If at the very least, if nobody else gets help from this, at least I can kind of chronicle my journey of recovery, the struggles of mental illness, and trying to recapture my life. Um, I want to be functional again. I want to grocery shop. I want to go to restaurants with my husband and son. I want to travel, and I just want to be alive again instead of trapped. So this is kind of my introductory video, and we'll see what happens after that. Thanks.